Right. You should all be able to see our Palisades Neighborhood Association website. And this is, for those of you who don't know, it's just palisadesneighborhood.org. We, on the home page, we include the latest information. And what we're going to talk about, and anybody who is not subscribed to get our information, please go here to subscribe, and you'll get our email notifications, newsletters. It's not a social newsletter, it's just information about things that affect us as a neighborhood. I want to start out by saying we're going to share today some things that we've learned, some things we could do better, how we're hoping to proceed with the city moving forward, not laying blame or any of that, but how can we as a community help them to do better for us. I also want to give a shout out to so many neighbors, you know, many of you on the call and many others who are not on the call, who have reached out to other neighbors and shared wood and gasoline for fueling generators and fireplaces, and extending everything from food to going on trips to the store to get medications or help dig people out, whether it's for their cars or trees that have been downed. I'm really impressed with our community, and I think it's only getting stronger. Experiences like this with the winter review is also helping us share information and get stronger together. So I hope that you share the information you get here today with your other neighbors, and suggest that they do subscribe so that they can get more information like what we're showing here. This is a web page that you're seeing on my screen that is accessible to everybody, and we're going to use it as a sort of an agenda, but the web page will still be up, and you'll be able to click on these hyperlinks to see more information, because it's just a lot of information here today, and we've put this together fairly quickly, and more information will be gathered. I asked today that those on the call here, can you please share your comments in the chat? And after this meeting on this web page, you can share your comments, experiences, and advice right here on this same web page down here. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the South Shore Boulevard Fire Station. It's on the chopping block, and the city survey that ends the 26th. Question number 19. It's a fairly long survey. It's about 20 minutes. But please, one of the important things to do is please take this survey if you haven't already, and mark, you know, in support of the fire station, which is 3/4 of the way through the survey. It's really important. The link is on the website, and always contact us if you can't find something or do a search. I'm going to turn this over to Rick Eilers, who's going to talk about emergency communication and news. For those who don't know, Rick Eilers has contributed so much to this neighborhood in terms of emergency preparedness and communication, as well as Mark Thornburg, who has done such. Rick is just a fountain of information, and a lot of it is online. So he's going to tell you how to access that information and also give us a winter storm review. Rick?
All right, my turn. So what I want to start with first is our cul-de-sac is a group of 6 homes. We're kind of down in a pocket where we can't really get out when we have ice and snow events, because we gotta climb out of a 13-degree basically a street to get out onto Overlook. So what I want to do is I want to talk about what happened to us, and what worked, what didn't work, and what we would do differently next time. So many of these things probably affected everybody, but at least we've got them kind of down as one list. Communication between neighbors, texts, emails, phone conversations. They were really good sharing information, and so we all knew what was going on. Cell phones, again, I brought up the cell tower at Lake Ridge High School. That allowed our phones to work, actually. 5 out of 6 of our neighbors now have generators in our cul-de-sac as kind of a backup power supply. We found as the temperature got closer to the freezing mark, that having salt on this ice melted it so quick. It was amazing. So that was something we learned. 2 out of the 6 homes, we got our furnaces up and running off of our generators. So we actually had nice warm houses. One of us has wood stove. Another had a pellet stove that he used his generator to get running. 4 out of the 6 of us had enough gas to run our generators. We had running water, hot water, because of natural gas. What also worked was the weather forecast and having advance warning of this. We did prepare. We did have almost everybody had food in the refrigerators and were ready to go. We slept in the basement during the windstorm on Saturday night because so many homes were getting pounded by falling trees. And also what worked was the neighbors getting out and shoveling the street. So we had paths to get our cars out of the cul-de-sac. So now what didn't work really was how the city crews reacted to our neighborhood or our street, because normally they come in and they plow and then they gravel on the way back out. We didn't see anybody this time. Another thing we couldn't do is protect water pipes, especially outside faucets and bibs. Even if you had heat tape on them, without power, it didn't do you any good. We have one neighbor that I had to shut their main off because they had water running out of the garage as we started to warm up. It was actually as soon as the power came on and they kicked their furnace on, then things started going awry. And they're on vacation, so maybe stop some damage there. Also, knowing the condition of your neighbors. For example, the neighbor that was on vacation, they had a pet sitter staying at their house with no power. So we were keeping informed and trying to help her out, and she finally got out and went home. Electrical preparations. What we didn't do well on is have enough extension cords and splitters and transfer switches so they could plug their generators into their house. So that's something we're going to work on. What we do differently, the generators, 3 of the generators had never been used, so they didn't even have oil in them. So we should have those better prepared. We should have more gasoline for fuel because these are all gas operated that we had. Pre-wired transfer switches. It's time to get those installed now. Pre-built power cords to go from the generator to the transfer switch. Power strips for small electronics. Having a dual fuel generator. That was a great example, Chris, that you shared with everybody. Having generator motor oil, so you can change the oil when you need to on those. A stockpile of salt. We were amazed how well that worked. Buckets of like quarter minus gravel to get stuck cars out and moving again. Better tools for ice removal and better cold weather gear. Those were just some of the key findings in our neighborhood. There was one of our neighbors also asked questions that may come up in the later on in this Zoom call, debris pickup. She says it needs to be in our neighborhoods, not at Westlake. It needs to be convenient to all residents, not just those having a truck and are free for those free 2 days. Another suggestion was maybe waste Republic Service can start dumping our yard waste bins for free for a couple of cycles or something like that. Another comment she had was South Shore trees need to be severely trimmed. Okay, we're all aware of that. We got messages about garbage pickup, that it was going to be a day late, but yet but then the city came out and said that it was going to be a week late. So there was some confusion there. Matter of fact, we have our cul-de-sac full of garbage cans right now. They would like to know, it'd be helpful if the city put out a flyer with step-by-step instructions for what to do if a tree falls on your house. I don't think anyone is interested in getting a city permit in an emergency. What are the practical steps? Who do you call first? Your insurance agent, the fire department, your arborist? It'd be nice to have that as like a one-page Q&A for somebody. Yesterday we had a Amazon driver come in our cul-de-sac, even though we're still a sheet of ice, and he slid down and hit another car that was parked here. And the city also could have done maybe a better job of putting up those little barricades showing that the streets are impassable. From what I heard is they had them all over downtown on icy sidewalks. But yet they should know our streets. I mean, they drive by here. So anyhow, that's kind of our list right now of things we could do better as a neighbors. Is there any questions about that?
Rick, let me just mention, is everybody able to see on the left of their screen the light orange highlights? This area here, the links to prepare your neighborhood? No, okay.
I'm not seeing anything in orange. Yeah.
That's
No.
okay. So I will put it new share. Okay. The reason I wanted to share this is because maybe you could take just a minute, Rick, to share about preplo.org.
Yes.
You should all see, are you able to see the page now?
Yes.
Okay, so PrepLO is just a fountain of information that has, well, Rick, you're going to go ahead and explain it.
Yep.
And then
Okay,
there are hyperlinks. These are hyperlinks so you can get more information.
Yes. Okay, so PrepLO was started in 2014 to prepare our neighborhood associations for the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. So it was a group of neighbors from all over the city. We would meet up once a month, and we laid out a program for, let's say, for food. We spent 6 months on food, what you should have stockpiled. Then we went on to water, how to purify water. We built this website with links to the products that we recommend. For example, like a water filter, you can click on the link and it takes you to Amazon to the actual water filter that we would recommend. PrepLO was really designed again for Cascadia, which was a 30-day event. So it's all about storing food, water, etc., first aid supplies for a really long event. So if you can go to that website, get yourself stockpiled for 30 days, then these ice storms won't be near as bad. It also includes retrofitting your homes, making sure that they're, if your home was built before 1980, making sure that it's bolted to the foundation. It will stay on the foundation during a really strong earthquake. If your house moves, a foot off the foundation, it will probably be condemned because it's unsafe to live in. So it's a real important step to making sure you're safe. So
Thank you, Rick. And again, here are the links to a whole lot more information. I see two people with their hands up. Don?
This is regarding salting ice.
yes.
I realize that Rick, you live in a cul-de-sac, so I don't know if dogs are walking there very often. But where I live, it's part of a big loop. I live on Coalwood, which is on the north end of the rectangular loop north of Lake Ridge High School. And
Yes.
that's an area that's walked a lot. And even during this ice storm, we saw quite a few dogs. Uh, so I'm wondering if the Palisades Association could make it a policy that salt that's used is there is a kind of salt that's supposed to be less corrosive and less toxic for pets.
Thank you. We'll look into that. Appreciate that comment. Rachel?
Hi. Yeah, my question also about salt. Is there any city prohibition against salting your driveway? What about salting the municipal road right in front of your house? Do they have any problems with that? And I was even looking at, the plows you install on the front of an SUV. They're like $3,000. What I was reading on the internet is that that's pretty frowned upon for private citizens to be plowing public roads. So I'm curious about those questions.
Does anybody on the call have an answer to that? I do not, but if nobody speaks up, we'll certainly add that to our list as the Palisades Neighborhood Association approaches the city. Okay. I'm just looking over the chat and yep, it's pretty much covering what you've just said. If there's no other comments about that, I think we've pretty much covered the city street maintenance during storm unless I'm missing something. Well, I know that Ken Allen is going to be talking a little later about trees and safety, and he'll address the trees on South Shore Boulevard, where our main power is, and then there's discussion there. I'd like to move on to the preventing of burst water pipes. Chuck Buck, one of our Palisades neighborhood area representatives, has prepared a pretty nice and thorough presentation. Take it away, Chuck.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm driving back to Portland, so I just quickly pulled over. So if we get lost here with the transmission, I'll just call in again.
I sure appreciate your time, Chuck.
No problem. It's a pleasure. So first of all, a burst pipe, I've only experienced it twice in my life, and it's quite spectacular to see how a frozen pipe can burst, and all of a sudden the ice plug gets dislodged and the amazing amount of water comes flying out of there, and it's a pretty big miserable deal. So without going, so we'll go to the prevention here in a moment, but if that happens, if something catastrophic like that happens, it's really amazing idea to know where your water shut or valve is located. Some of us has been living in a house for a long time, and we don't know where that valve is. So know where that valve is and know where your tool is. That tool, some people confuse the shut-off tool with their irrigation tool. They look almost the same, but it's not the same thing. The water shut-off tool is more beefy. Know where that is. Know how to operate it. Go to your street to the water meter where this thing is located, the shut-off valve, and make sure that you can access it. Sometimes if you open it, you'll see there's just a bunch of dirt that moles and stuff that, you know, that basically got in there. And you must open that up, find it when the weather is nice. It's miserable trying to do that when it's raining and your house is being flooded. So that's a very good idea to do. And then moving on to the house itself, you will be well advised to buy some of these polystyrene squares that you can insert into the foundation vents. It's not a good idea to leave them in those vents for a long time. But while the weather is as nasty as we had, it's a very good idea to plug those holes up. And that, at least, if you keep your house warm enough, there's enough radiant heat going through your floors, even if your floors are insulated, that it will most probably prevent most of the pipes under your house to freeze up. They're mostly on the newer homes made of ABS plastic, and you know they can break spectacularly if they freeze. So and then going on to faucets. Faucets, you get a lot of frost-free faucets these days. So your outside faucet, it's a good idea. They run about $55 if you can install it yourself. Otherwise, get a plumber to do it. And what they do is every time you close those faucets, the stop valve is behind the faucet, behind the wall, basically in the crawl space. And that keeps the faucet from freezing. And so that's a very good idea to have those installed. If you do not have those installed, do at least cover the faucet on the outside with one of those polystyrene covers. Most of the faucets have a stop valve on the inside. Inside the garage, you'll usually find one. And the others, almost every house has a faucet outside their kitchen. So if you open the kitchen cabinet, and in there, you'll see there's a stop valve. And that guy you absolutely need to close. And then you open the valve on the outside for that water to drain out. And then if it freezes, there's no problem. So the water won't expand when it freezes. So that's a pretty good idea to do that. The idea is to have no water in the faucet itself, because as I say, when it freezes, it expands and it will break a faucet into pieces. Try to keep your house warmer than 65 degrees. That, you know, even at night, some people, their temperatures go down a lot at night. That's okay if it's not that cold outside, but if you have freezing weather, that's not a good idea. That's when your pipes will start bursting again. And then you get heater strip tape. That's a very cool thing. So while you have power, those work very cool. They don't draw a lot of power, about the same than a 40 watt light bulb. And you can wrap these around your pipes, and you plug it in and your pipe stays nice and toasty. And I think I've covered everything. We've got the polystyrene squares. Try to get frost-free faucets, at least cover them with covers and close the inside. Don't do your house too cold. Keep it 65 and up if you can. Also a good idea to open the cabinets in the kitchen for the heat to reach the pipes. There's a lot of water pipes there. So that's also a good idea to do that. No, this is very important. Again, I cannot stress this enough. Know where your shut-off valve is. Know how to reach it with the right tool, and make sure that you can do it. And that is about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chuck. Right now, I don't have a web page with all that information, but we'll write up a transcript and add it here, as well as have this video recording. Jane Schmidt, you had a question. You had your hand up.
I did. I think I got my question answered. Rick was talking about they were able to heat their home with their generators. And so I was asking him what size. We have a 3,800 watt generator that we fired up for the very first time. And he was saying that 2,000 is sufficient. So I need to learn how to hook up our generator to the furnace.
Yeah. Generators are going to be a big part of our conversation today. There's a lot of information and different price points. And fortunately, we're blessed with having many people on the call today that are just about experts, I would say. They are experts. So we'll go more into that in a minute. Does anybody else have questions about the burst water pipes or what Chuck has talked about?
Hey, I would just add, Frederic, that I was looking at this when our temperatures were getting pretty cold inside the house here. And we've never had frozen pipes, but we have also never had our temperatures get as low as they have this last time around without power. And so what they were saying is that you open up a faucet, you let it drip, and the furthest faucet away from where the water enters your house is to just open it up, just to let it drip. So I did that with all of our faucets anyway, as a precaution. And I would also say that we don't have, our house is old, so we would only be able to shut off our water at the street. So we don't have a shut off valve inside or anywhere near the foundation of the house. But
Thank you,
those were,
Jane.
yeah.
Was there anything else? Sorry.
No, that's it.
Thank you so much. Let's see.
I could add a little bit, maybe. Frederic, this is Brian Campanile.
You bet.
So a couple of things. First, the faucets outside that are antifreeze are amazing, but there is a little bit of a potential fail on them, where if you actually hang your hose up above the faucet spigot, the freeze prevention component doesn't actually have an ability to work. So I just thought I'd add that tidbit in case anyone is looking to use those, but they hang their hose above that level. Number two, we also noticed a lot of east winds, where if you're up on the hill, there is some areas where you might want to be in consideration of what's going on with your the wind can drop things 10 degrees. So I just thought that was also kind of an interesting component when you're looking at what pipes might freeze and what areas of your houses and whatnot.
Thank you. Ken Allen. Oh, before we go on to Ken, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else who wanted to comment? I see something in the chat. Roger Gray tells everybody the faucet drip method requires both hot and cold faucets to be turned on, and actually, yeah, all faucets, not just the one furthest away. It's only a few gallons per hour. Run the showers and washer periodically. Thank you for that tip, Roger. Ken Allen, would you like to speak about trees and safety?
Yep, thank you and greetings to everybody. One comment on the water, I would recommend getting an in-house water valve shut off. So get a plumber out. So immediately shut off your valve inside your house, and usually it's easily accessible. It's coming in the garage or in your crawl space or somewhere, and then it goes to your hot water heater. But there's usually a spot to put one of those, and then put a big sign on it that says water shut off here. So you run to it, click it, and then go out in the street and work on that, just from experience anyway. But as far as tree safety goes, there's a link
Ken, I'm
on.
going to stop you just a second. I forgot to introduce you. Ken is a general contractor, residential and commercial, I believe, and also a land developer. And he happens to be not only a Palisades neighbor, he's right here in the middle of us, but has helped quite a few neighbors during this storm, running errands and doing all kinds of safety things. So, you know, shout out to Ken, among other people who have volunteered their time and their efforts. And for those who don't know, Ken Allen is also the gentleman who is developing the land on Stafford Road and who has periodic meetings to share with the neighborhood. Go ahead, Ken.
Yep, thank you for that intro. Also on the Zoom here is my son, Sid. He runs Sid's Construction, so we have a couple different companies, but today we're kind of on here as neighbors and understanding how we have helped over the years in storms. Because what happens to my family, starting back in 2008, when the first few ice storms were, our construction jobs are shut down and we're, you know, seeking thrill and activity. So we go out when everybody else is shuttered in. We're running around trying to open up streets with trees and whatnot. But specifically this storm, I don't know if there's abundance of trees this time. I don't really count the numbers, but we had an abundance of calls and we were limited. And Sid can talk about, what services, but mostly the very first thing you need to do is, and somebody mentioned that they're sleeping in the basement. So analyze your house. We're in a ranch style house with a basement, a walkout basement. So we are in the lower level. So you basically have two structures to protect you, your roof structure and then your first floor structure to kind of prevent those trees from coming in. The other part is, before you ever get to that, is analyze, this summer, analyze your neighbor trees. We have one neighbor that we're negotiating with to share in the expense to examine the tree, at least figure out with our arborist if it's unsafe, because it would hit our house, not his. It definitely would hit ours. And it's far enough away where it build up enough momentum to do some pretty serious harm. So, analyze that. I wouldn't jump out in the winter storm and play arborist. You can start seeing the roots. I think there was a bunch of stories up in Mountain Park where people are out in the forest with their cell phones and, just, that's not, as fun as that might sound, that's not the best thing to be doing, is walking around in and amongst the trees, because trees can go all directions. Even the arborist and the tree cutters know that, so they're not predictable, even if they look like they're leaning one way or the other. The other thing is, on our PNA website here, there's a link to the city's website. And I'm just looking at it here, but there are some, debris drop-offs. Of course, you have to have a truck or a trailer to get junk over there. I agree. It would be nice to get it into the neighborhoods, not just over across the lake. We know a number of arborists and resources, so we can get our information out to you guys to help, solve some of the immediate danger. We've been, I don't know, over scheduled, and I'll kick it over to Sid here, but mostly wanted to just offer ourselves as a resource. We're not tree experts by any means. Part of our development is that we are either mitigating, planting, or preserving trees. We also take them down. So in this case, we've navigated this last week. We've gotten a few emergency permits. We know that process. And we know the people. Knowing the arborists and the city arborist helps expedite that. So we were able, in a few cases, get same day permits without posting, and they're emergency, even without, the arborist has to inspect them, but they still need to be certified, but there's a process for that. So while we love trees, we like humans a little bit more. So it's very important to treat this with utmost respect. That's for sure. So any questions? That's kind of nothing necessarily prepared, just here to help. Any questions? And then I'll let Sid talk for a second about, what kinds of services we can help direct you guys. And we're mostly referring folks, because, we can only do so much ourselves.
I see Don Wayne has his hand up.
Just a question about the schools in the Palisades area. I know Lake Ridge High School and Palisades Elementary. Are there any other schools, public or private, because my question has to do with trees anywhere near these schoolyards where there's a lot of activity, and who's monitoring that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Somebody else might know a better answer here, but rule number one is, if everybody's responsible for their own property, regardless of whether it's public or private. Number two, the city is not responsible to clean your tree that fell from your yard into the public right of way or street. They'll clear it and cut it. And we've even done that, on Green Tree Road, just to get through, to get downtown, just clear a path so we can drive through. But I would imagine Parks and Rec have their own contracts. City has their own contracts, and also the schools, I'm sure, have their own cleanup contracts. But I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add to that.
There's Ken, there's a message in the chat from Liz McBee, and it says there are trees that are a potential issue for our home over 60 feet on city property. Who do we contact in the city to assess these trees?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's
Answer that for you if you want, Dad.
yeah, please go
Hi,
for it.
Sid.
Hey, everybody. So I'm on the infield side of things, part of the crews taking trees down or assisting people. So we work with a few consulting groups, our experts in different consultant groups. AKS is a great one. Because we just run the chainsaws. We don't determine what trees are coming down or if they're in danger. And that's a good point. You would contact an arborist company and they have someone come out and deem it unsafe or determine the safety of the tree and integrity. Let me look at some of my points here. We've been also trying to take down trees in bigger chunks so that you can actually use the lumber, because most arborists or cases like this, we just cut them into buck-sized pieces and they end up just in the scrapyard. And I work with a local mail company that is a great guy. He's been in the industry and his whole goal is to turn urban trees into usable lumber, and we hold the utmost respect for trees in general. But at a certain point, these trees do have a shelf life. And it is hard to get that sweet spot of shelf life and them coming down. And when they come down and hit your house and everybody's in danger and everybody's power's out because of it, that is a big downside. So getting in contact with all these tree consultants, and if you have a tree that feels unsafe, you're worried about it, have them out, have them check it out. And if you have a tree coming down, the best way to take care of it is having someone properly take it down in a way that the lumber is salvageable, and make good use of the beautiful trees we've been preserving for years, you know what I mean? So and keep us all safe.
We can provide you know, to the neighborhood association some links to some different arborists we use. They're very busy right now. The city question, they have their own email and website, but it's treesaregood.org. That's one. And then I'll have to give you the city one. I don't see it here, but our permits come back through that email. The city planner on duty can also point you in the right direction, but there is an expeditious way to get an emergency. So there, if it's a moderate rated tree, you're going through the normal channel of posting it and your neighbor's complaining and blah, 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 even if it's a city tree or a park tree or your neighbor's tree. But if it's deemed a hazard or even emergency, you can circumvent all of that. And we've just this week, we were able to get 6 or 7 trees, was it, Sid? Emergency approval. And we got one more we're trying to get tomorrow, you know, as soon as they're open.
Could I just elaborate on my earlier point about schools? And this would apply also to churches or any kind of large congregation, you know, places where people congregate. I'm wondering if there's anybody on the Lake Oswego district who's also on the Palisades Neighborhood Association. I mean, on the district board. And the reason I'm asking is that I think it's I think it would be good that the Lake Oswego, after this recent episode, and we had one back in 2021 and one in 2017, that there should be a function of having arborists come out regularly and look at the trees on any properties that are either public or private that serve large groups of people. I don't, you know, I would hope that maybe the Palisades Neighborhood Association could institute a motion in that regard. I'm affiliated with the International Leadership Academy, which is a private nonprofit school over on Boones Ferry Road. We had a lot of trees fall in the forest area around the school. Mike Buck, who some of you may know, is overseeing a mitigation project at the school that involves planting a lot of, removing a lot of invasive plants, planting native plants, protecting sensitive lands, and also planting trees. But there was quite a few trees that fell in the area last week. That's all I have to add.
Thank you, Don. You mentioned that you wondered if any of the Lake Oswego School District board members were in Palisades.
Well, if they are affiliated in any way with the Palisades Neighborhood Association.
Kirsten Aird is in Palisades, and she was a former
I remember.
chairperson.
Yeah.
Since she's been on the school board, I haven't heard from her, but certainly I will reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Ken.
No, that's it. If there's other questions, we'll post the different information for arbors, because that's really where you start the process. There's also down trees. I talked to the city and some of the vendors that are already approved. They're not coming around to pick up trees anytime soon. They're getting all the roads unclogged, then they're working on the sidewalks, and then PG is responsible for their public utility right away. So we've got one homeowner right down on 10th Avenue or 10th and A Avenue, and they got, the two massive trees that cross the road there at that intersection. They're on public property, but the city said, yeah, clean them up. And, it just cost a lot. Unfortunately, somebody cut them into like 4-foot sections. So beautiful trees that now it's just debris, unfortunately. But that email for the city, maybe we can post it here. It's trees@ci.oswego.or.us. And so that goes to the planner. So that's how you submit for, there's a whole tree. If everybody's done this before, anybody's done it. It's convoluted at best. But if you do the regular way, you're just going to get in a long line that literally takes 4 to 6 weeks. We were able to get, 6 or 7 trees done in a day last week and one more tomorrow. So any other questions?
Ken, can you give me the URL and I'll type it in?
Yeah, I'll do that when we're done here. You bet.
Yeah. And so Ken's going to put that in the chat so you can have that. And Ken is also going to forward me a bunch of information he's talking about. We'll post it on the website.
Yep. Thank you.
Any questions from anyone before we move on? Questions for Ken or Sid? And Ken, did you say that you and Sid's company are available for a fee to help with tree removal and debris?
We're like everybody, we're getting booked up pretty quickly because it takes all of our excavating equipment. We got to mobilize. I mean, we're doing the best we can, doing things at cost, but and Sid and I were talking about it yesterday. I mean, the cost of mobilizing all the equipment. I mean, we're talking about logging companies, not tree trimming guys like your yard guy. These are massive trees. So like today we had I don't know how many board feet, but think of 6 giant 100-foot Doug firs loaded onto a logging truck right here on Green Tree, right by the park over here. So it's a pretty big undertaking. 12 guys worked 12 hours yesterday, and we didn't even get halfway done. So take it pretty seriously. And even just the crews working around them, it's just unnerving. So yeah, be careful, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. You're spread thin like everybody. And Sid, could you please put your contact information in the chat here if just to let people know either for this storm or in the future how to contact you.
Definitely. And also, if you have logs that are 8 foot or 17 feet long, I have the logging truck that can pick them up for free. The cost of the lumber, the mill guy pretty much pays him to drive them and pick them up if it's enough logs. So it's free to get rid of them that way.
That's amazing, Sid. Thank you for that information. Let's see, we have another question here, from Victor Lieberman. Why do we in the Palisades lose power first, get it back last? We see trees laying on power lines, especially on Stafford and by Lusher Farm. Ken, do you want to answer that?
Well, just as a observant neighbor, I mean, I've lived in LO since '98. This side of the lake for the last 10 years, it just, the trees are old, and that's make it beautiful. I mean, it's what makes a community amazing is also sometimes its demise. I mean, ask people from Arizona, it's beautiful, but not in the summer. So unfortunately, when the wind gets whipped up, as everybody knows, and the ice and the trees get heavy, I've seen a lot of comments about trimming harder back on South Shore. I mean, it's very obvious they are maintenance in them, and that's PGE I'm talking about, but they just don't. Maybe we need to lobby PGE and the city more to be a little bit harsher cutback, and I'm not a proponent of clear cutting it, but there's just obvious overage, overgrown on all our lines all along South Shore. So it's not going to stop the massive tree falling, but it could just stop the little limbs, dropping. I don't know if everybody's experienced that. We had a photo up earlier of South Shore. I mean, I kept checking on every day, just hoping they'd fix it. And we couldn't go in there because the power's live, and we're licensed with PGE, but not live power, unfortunately. So we couldn't go down there and just clear it out.
Thank you, Ken. And your reporting with photos almost daily were very helpful. And those were shared around some of the neighborhood. Don Wayne has his hand up, and then Roger Gray wanted to say something as well. Go ahead, Don. You are muted.
I'm sorry. Just a question, is there going to be any portion of this presentation that deals with insurance matters related to trees falling on houses or to flooding?
We hadn't planned on it. Let's see how the meeting goes, and we can certainly address that. If not now, then maybe a little later, and add it to the website and e-newsletters or something like that, Don.
Well, I did learn something from an architect friend that I can share.
Excellent. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Roger?
Frederick, I would suggest we defer that until the end if we have time, and just stay with the agenda you put together, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Is there anything else on trees and safety? Meg Wilkinson writes, my concern was how long it took to de-energize the line. We saw Asplund there, that's a tree service, Monday afternoon to clear, but we're waiting for the line to be safe. I think they were just overwhelmed, but I'm not with PGE.
Frederick, I've worked in the utility industry my whole career. I don't work for PGE, and maybe if we have time at the end, I can talk about that as well, because a couple of questions have come up on that. Thanks. Thank
you. Okay, Meg, we're going to get back to that. Next one is 5 ways to stay warm. This is just, I think of Ken Allen, or maybe some of our other presenters were going to mention some in-home heaters, but what you see on your screen right now should be it's something that I picked up from Consumer Reports about 5 ways to stay warm in the winter. And I'm not going to go into it all, but of course, we're going to talk about generators a little later. You can read this on the website. Stay in a south-facing room, seal window and door leaks. Use a fireplace or another heat source, like gas fireplaces with an automatic, or rather an electric battery start. And camp out indoors. So generators and space heaters to consider. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Just wanted to give everybody this information that I posted on the website, and that may be of help to you. Back to, did anybody have anything to say about that, or have any information on safe indoor heaters? I have not found any that are not electric.
Yeah, Frederick, it's Roger Gray. I think that what you just showed up there was good. Just a couple really quick safety points, because this happens every year in power outages, unfortunately. So do not ever use anything that is combustible like kerosene or propane or a barbecue indoors. That is an absolute, that's a good way to die because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's, and then Chris is going to be talking about generators and either powering an electric heater, like a small electric heater, or your gas furnace. Generally speaking, if you can get your gas furnace to work, you get a lot more leverage. You get a lot more heat out of gas you get much more bang for the buck. And there's different ways to, if you power electric heaters, like those portable electric heaters, you might be able to do a room or two. Your gas furnace can do the whole house for a very small amount of electrical usage, which is just the blower. I'm also a big believer that we should be doing this regardless, is putting combination smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors in our homes. Those are just really good ways to make sure, in case you get a generator backfeeding exhaust or something into your house, just some safety tips. And then the worst case, if you are absolutely freezing, you can't get out, is possible. What? Okay, I'm sorry, I got to go out. Hey.
Thank you, Roger.
All right.
Okay, any other comments or hands raised? I don't see anybody's hands raised. All right, and there's, the next section is good to know, neighborhood resources, getting transportation, medications. I think we've sort of covered that a bit, but I think, Ken, did you have something more to add to what we've already said? Or anybody, actually?
No, I'll defer to Chris on the generator and emergency power section. So I'm good.
All right. Is there anybody at all on the call that has a question about this? You can also add it to the chat and we'll read it later if something comes up to you. Okay, let's go to our next section, which is a really important one, about generators, options, advice, maintenance. There's a lot of people in Palisades who are really knowledgeable, especially a couple people on this call. So I'm going to let Chris start the discussion and presentation, and then we can go from there. Chris Durkee?
Yes, thanks, Frederic. I'll put my contact info in the chat. If anybody has questions or wants to come by and see the system that I set up, I would be happy to help in any way that I can. And I don't propose myself as an expert, just one who did enough research to come up with a solution of my own.
Chris, would you like me to share your screen?
Yeah, no, you've got it fine. The outline is fine. So this outline will be on the website, or is on the website. The starting point for generators, really, there are two pathways to come up with a solution. The first is make a list of the outlets, lights, appliances that you absolutely need to power in a storm, essential loads. And then the second path is your budget. And of course, it's going to end up being a compromise between those two. Once you know what outlets and appliances and lights you need, you can get the electrical demand for each of those. It's available on the appliance or website. Beware, and I think Roger mentioned this, and this is so true. Any appliance that uses electricity to make heat, in other words, hair dryers, toaster ovens, coffee makers, microwaves, cooktops, crock pots, whatever, uses a lot of electricity. So if you're planning on using your electric cooktop, a microwave, coffee maker, and a hair dryer, then you're going to need a big generator. Okay, so I outlined on this three kind of points on the curve in terms of possible generator solutions. A low-cost solution, a medium-cost solution, and a higher-cost solution. And of course, there are infinite number of options within those three. The low-cost solution, Frederick, if you want to throw up picture number one, this would be like a $300 gasoline generator from Home Depot. Powers about 4,400 watts. And then all you need is an extension cord and a power strip, and you can plug in. Do you have my pictures by chance?
Well, I'm looking for them. Thank you.
Okay.
Give me a second.
They're in the emails. So
Yeah.
you could plug in a refrigerator, phone chargers, some lights, and maybe a hair dryer if you don't run anything else that uses electricity to generate heat. The pros of that kind of system are it's cheap, it's easy to set up, there's nothing to install. The cons are it's noisy, which is a consideration if it's located next to your bedroom or next to your neighbor's bedroom. And it must be refueled 2 or 3 times a day, depending on the size of the tank. And carburetors can get gummed up if not properly maintained. Now, I'll tell you, this is a killer for me. I had a little generator for the last storm, and when I actually came around to use it, the carburetor was all gummed up with old gas. I couldn't get it started, and probably the gas that I was storing in my garage was old as well. I'm nowhere near as disciplined in this as Rick Eilers is. And so I ended up with a generator that was useless. So that's a serious disadvantage to, yeah, there it is, that little Home Depot guy right there. That's a disadvantage of this system. And another one is you end up with a power cord or extension cords running through open doorways or windows, and which doesn't help retain the heat. And you end up having to heat the house by burning wood, some kind of wood fireplace or so. Okay, so then there's the medium cost option. This is the option that that I went with, and I'll have more information in a second. Honda makes a really nice little camping generator. They're very quiet, and you can get the base generator and then what they call is a companion generator, and the two of them hooked together. They're about $2,300 for the two of them, 3,600 watts. And then Hutch Mountain Company makes a conversion kit that will allow the generators to run on natural gas, propane, or
Is this the
gasoline.
right picture, Chris?
No, we'll get to that. No, it was picture number 1, but you already had it. Maybe cue up picture number 2, which was the big standby generator. We'll get to that in a second. So back to the medium cost option. A company called Hutch Mountain makes a conversion kit for the little Honda generators to allow them to run on natural gas, propane, or gasoline. And that is really handy. It's a permanent installation. You put it in the, install it in the generators, hook it up to your barbecue quick connect natural gas line in the backyard. And now you've got generators that can run 24/7. You never have to refill them. You never have to run to the gas station. You're not out in the middle of the night trying to fill them up with gasoline when it's pouring rain. The system, and then you also need a transfer panel connected to the main house panel. We'll get to that in a second. That's about $350 plus installation by an electrician. So that system will power, in my case, powers our home furnace, which runs on natural gas. So we had heat through the storm, refrigerators, selected outlets and lights in the house, and a coffee maker when I needed it. The pros to that system is that it's quiet. It can run 24/7 during an outage, assuming you have natural gas. In the case of an earthquake, that might not be the case. But in an earthquake, they can run on propane, which is also very easy to store long-term. It doesn't go bad like gasoline does. The cons are the conversion kit must be installed permanently on the generators, and the two generators together still aren't big enough to run the whole house. So the third option, this is the big guy there, that Generac, or there are a lot of other manufacturers that make them. They call that a standby generator because it's always there. It's in your backyard or side yard, permanently connected to your electrical system. And in the case of a power outage, the lights might flicker a little bit. This thing fires up, runs on a variety of different fuels, and it'll run the whole house. But you're looking at least $6 grand for the generator, plus installation. I don't really know what that total cost would be. Maybe somebody on this call would know that has one, but I would guess it's in the $8,000 to $10,000 range by the time you're all done. It includes an automatic transfer switch. We'll talk about those in just a second. And once installed, it's ready to go. Nothing to hook up, nothing to do. It all happens automatically. They're pretty quiet. They run 24/7, power the entire house. Cons, of course, they're very expensive. So let's hit some important concepts, and then I'll talk about the system that I have in a little more detail. First of all, any generator system, whether it's option one, the cheap one, the middle one, or the big one, any system must be isolated from the PG&E line power to protect workers fixing outages. You can imagine if there was a way to just plug your generator into the main electrical panel to run circuits in your house, that electrical current can run backwards up the line to the pole and then down the pole to some poor guy, some PG&E guy working on a pole or a transformer who thinks the line has been de-energized, but he could get electrocuted by your generator. So there has to be a transfer switch, an automatic transfer switch, a disconnect. There has to be a way to isolate your generator system from PG&E's line power coming into the house. Second thing, gasoline. The cheapest systems are gasoline powered, and gasoline is handy, but it has limited shelf life. Stored gasoline and any remaining gasoline in the generator, I think 12 months is expected lifespan for gasoline. And the carburetors gum up, as I talked about. Also, you have the danger of storing flammable fuel in your garage. And if the roads are unpassable, which was the case for us here, making trips to the gas station is difficult. Okay, the system that I have, it's the middle option. If we could go to picture 3, Frederic. There we go. So the first component is this transfer panel. And this is the panel that isolates the system powered by the generator from the system powered by PG&E. In my case, I have 6 circuits, and it's hardwired, connected. You can see the conduit there at the bottom of the picture that connects this transfer panel to my main house panel. In my case, I identified 6 circuits that I want to power on the generator. And so those circuit breakers, A through F, are those 6 circuits. And you can see the switches just above the circuit breakers, the black switches there beneath the load dial there. They have a position that's down. That's the line position. That means those 6 circuits are powered by PG&E from the main power on the line, the power poles. It has they have a middle position, which is off, which means those 6 circuits are not connected to anything. And then the up position is the generator. So that would mean those 6 circuits are powered by the generator. So what we would do is first turn off the main power to the house from PG&E. On the main house panel, manually go over and switch off the main circuit breaker. Now I'm disconnected from PG&E. I can safely hook up the generator. So that's the first part of my system, the transfer switch. The next is the power cord that connects this switch. You see the plug there, the receptacle in the lower right corner. It's a 3-wire, 10-gauge twist lock. And that connects this patch pan, the transfer panel, to the generators out in my backyard. We go to picture number 4. Just scroll down there and you can see that's what the twist lock connection looks like. So it's got a female plug on that end that goes to the transfer panel, and it's got a male plug at the other end that goes into the generators. And then picture number 5, those are what the little Honda generators look like. The one on the left is the main generator, and the one on the right is called the companion. You can see it says EU 2200i, and then right below that, companion. So these look the same, but they're not actually the same. They're designed to work together. If you just want one, you can just buy the main one on the left, but you can also buy the companion and connect the two of them together. And in this picture, several things. The inverter, I should mention, inverter generators are a specific type of generator. I couldn't begin to tell you electronically how they work, but the importance is an inverter generator provides very, very stable, safe power that you can run computers and smart TVs off of. If you get just the $300 gasoline Home Depot generator, you may have power, it may be good enough for a refrigerator, but I'm not sure I'd want to run my computer on it. The computer, the power just isn't stable enough. So these are inverter generators, which is one reason why they're quite a bit more expensive. So these are the two. Let's go to picture 6, if you can. The two generators are connected with these patching cables, and you see 3-conductor, black, red, and ground. Those are very easy to hook up. And then is the Hutch Mountain natural gas propane conversion kit. Let's go to picture 7. We scroll down. There we go. It's all the stuff that's in that box. The box I made, but all that stuff comes from Hutch Mountain, including the conversion inside the generator, which has to be permanently installed. So that's about $600. I think I did some pricing. And what you get are these 2 demand regulators, they call them, and all the piping and hosing and fittings and everything else, and all the stuff that goes inside the generator. The installation of the conversion kit in the generator is not that complicated. It involves drilling some holes and doing some plumbing work. But if you're handy, if you've worked on cars and stuff, it's not that hard. And I would be happy to help anybody that goes with this system get theirs installed and hooked up. Once it's done once, then you never have to worry about it again. And now you've got generators that can run on natural gas, propane, or gasoline, with whatever you want, any way you want to hook them up. And then I made the box just to keep all the stuff together in one place and to keep it safe from getting banged around in the garage. Those demand regulators, the 2 silver shiny things in there, they don't want to get stepped on and kicked and get dirty or anything else. So this kind of helps protect them. So some things that I would maybe do differently next time, or some options to consider. You could use a 10-circuit transfer panel instead of the 6-circuit panel that I have, and be able to connect to more lights and outlets. That would have really been helpful for me. We had refrigerators and our furnace and everything else going, but we didn't have lights or power back in our bedroom and bathroom. Another option is you can install an exterior twist lock receptacle outside your house. Looks just like a great big exterior outlet on the side of your house to plug the generator in. And that way you don't have to be running electrical cord, that main 30 amp power cord, you know, through a doggy door or a window or something else that it might keep a door or window open and bring heat in. And also you could put that natural gas quick connection in a side yard, whatever, to move the generators away from a living area or a neighbor's living area. So that's the system. And I got to tell you, the last ice storm a few years ago, I had a generator that was worthless. It was a boat anchor. This time I finally pulled the trigger. I got all this stuff. There's the gas quick connection. It's pretty straightforward. You probably already have one for your barbecue. If not, just it's worth having one just for the barbecue, but having it for the generators is great too. But at any rate, I pulled the trigger, spent the money, and I have a system now that really, really worked great. We had 24/7 heat in the house, power, the refrigerators were going, charging phones, had TV, I mean, it was really a good system for us. And there's the whole system in our backyard, all hooked up and running. You can see the gas line to the quick couple at the very top of the page. And there's the box that has the demand regulators and stuff inside. Then you can see where the gas lines connect to the top of the generators there, the brass quick couple connections, and then the orange power cord that runs around the corner and through the doggy door into our garage. So some other considerations. I would say one of these little cat battery packs is a must buy. We got it for camping, but you know, in a power outage, this is the first thing you want to have. Bring that in, put it on your kitchen counter, assuming you've kept it charged. And now you've got a very small amperage 110 outlet, but you've got 4 USB jacks for plugging in phones to keep phones charged. There's a little light there. And it's also got jumper cables if you need to jump your car or truck. And it's got a small air compressor. It's kind of wimpy, but it is there. At any rate, these things are pretty reasonable. I think they're, I don't know, $200-300. And that's just a good thing to have anyways. Propane. Propane is, I see a question, what propane sources can be used? Well, propane and natural gas are two different things, first of all. Second of all, propane, most gas stations have propane. I know the gas stations up on Boone's Ferry have propane. I get mine at the U-Haul place over by the 24-hour fitness near the freeway off of Boone's Ferry. But propane is almost as easy to get as gasoline, and just have it in a 5-gallon tank, which is easy to lift and keep in the garage, and it'll last forever. It doesn't go bad. It's safe to store, and it's a good way to store fuel. One quick note though, propane and natural gas have different power densities. So on these generators, if you're going to run it on natural gas, it uses one set of carburetor jets. If you're going to run it on propane, it uses a different carburetor jet. So you just have to swap the jets out, but don't let that stand in your way. It's a very, very easy changeover to make. It takes about 2 minutes. You just pop the old one off, pop the new one on, and you're back in business. And they're labeled so you can tell which one is which. Let's see. I think I've covered just about everything. One thing I did is when it was nice and sunny and I had my electrician next to me, we sat down and thought through a logical outage and when the power comes back on process checklist so that I could do step 1, step 2, step 3. This is the checklist that we developed for our house to make sure that we were going through the process correctly and not missing a step, like disconnecting PG&E power with the main breaker, that kind of thing. So at any rate, if you have the same system that I do, then you'd probably use a very similar checklist, but certainly could be changed. So that's it. And I'm happy to take any questions or help anybody that I can.
Thank you, Chris. I don't see any hands up, and you've done a great job not only of presenting, but I wanted to let everybody know these pictures and Chris's presentation will also be on the website within, hopefully a few days. I don't see any more questions in the chat that haven't been answered. Let me go back to our list and check what the next item is. I think we've covered just about everything. Excuse me for taking a second here. About generators, additional emergency preparedness info. Rick Eilers, did you have anything more to add?
No, nothing more to add at this time.
Okay, Ken Allen, does anybody have anything more to add?
I just had one more comment, and it's more over the course of the next year before the next big storm, hopefully not this season, but my family's committed to, and I'm asking for help on this, is when our construction, and some of those I know are online here, they're project managers, and we have resources, and we want to put our resources to work in the neighborhoods we live in. So we've talked about over a few different seasons, we've helped people one up, but we thought we'd formalize an offer to help people get, like Chris's presentation here, have multiple generators and fuel and safe heaters and power cords and be ready to mobilize, and mostly for those in need that aren't able-bodied or can't get out or that, so kind of prioritize. So I could use help in two different ways, formulating that list of those people over the course of the next few months or year, and then also anybody that wants to contribute, because I know the last big storm, we got a generator and we literally knew a guy that needed it more than us, and we gave it away, and somebody heard about that, and then two people gave us generators, and we go, this is kind of cool. So we gave those away, and we ended up getting another one. It was just an interesting way to pay it forward, and we've been taken care of. So we're going, let's help people. So anyway, we need people we can help, and then those that want to help, and maybe all you do is pitch in and you pay for one set, and then it's in our warehouse ready to go and get mobilized when this happens again. Because we know of two stories where, these elderly families shouldn't have been without heat, and they just were, and they shouldn't have been. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you, Ken. I've got two items. One, a neighbor wrote in, it's up on your screen. One thing we learned is that when you travel, be sure that 2 or more neighbors, family or friends, not only know you will be gone, but have good contact information so they can report status of your home, and you can tell them where the key to your house is. For us, one friend and one neighbor saved us by turning on a faucet and allowing us to know that the pipes were safe. So important. And this is just a Palisades neighbor regarding this current storm. Don Wayne had to writes in about insurance, which what he says is, I may not be able to stay until after the full presentation. Briefly regarding damage, this is in your notes, in the chat. Briefly regarding damage due to trees falling or pipes bursting and flooding home interior, I was told by an architect who lives close to Palisades area that it's important to contact one's home insurance company before contracting for any renovation or restoration work, or The company could decline to cover such work if claims adjuster had not visited the scene before such work was contracted and the work begun. Also, if you have a major flood from pipes bursting and do not carry flood insurance, there's a possibility your insurance coverage may not extend to flood damage. One example is New Orleans after Katrina, homes that were insured for hurricane damage that broke away from their foundations. They were swept into the canals or in the Gulf waters and were not covered because their hurricane insurance did not apply to what was legally classified as a flood. So this is just from one person's perspective. Please check with your insurance companies and know this information. I have got, let's see, okay, well, is there anybody in the audience or anybody at all on this call that has anything to say that they want to contribute or share? Please speak up. Okay, well, you are always welcome to go to our website and contact us there at www.palisadesneighborhood.org and palisadesneighborhood.org, excuse me, and of course subscribe. Okay, subscribe to our newsletter and information right here, and latest information that is here, and also each different subject for the latest news there. Thank you, everyone. I'll be posting a recording of this weather review in our Palisades neighborhood. I'll be posting that on our website very soon.
I just want to thank all of you that presented and the association for holding this session. Thank you.
You're welcome, Don. And yes, thank you to all those who contributed, both in the audience and from Rick Eilers to Chris Durkee, Charles Buck, Ken Allen, Sid's Construction. I hope I haven't missed anyone.
Frederick, this was terrific, very well organized, especially such a impromptu presentation. Good.
Well, I think it's one of the most important things that the Palisades Neighborhood Association has done, and one of the reasons that we're here is to join neighbors together, join resources together, share information. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Go Chiefs.